All right, on the breaking news, let's get back to Trey Yingst. He's live in southern Israel. What's happening now, Trey?
Yeah, John, Sandra, good afternoon. I just want to describe to you what it's like on the ground. We're getting a lot of mixed reports from inside Gaza and the possibility of Israeli troops being engaged by those Hamas and Islamic Jihad fighters. I just want to stop talking for a moment. You can hear behind me the engines of APCs. Israeli troops are on the move here along the Gaza border, and it is a new piece of critical information in all of this. It's getting louder and louder as they go up the road over this ridge behind us, but it's an indication that these troops are moving closer to the border. They are headed, according to Daniel Hagari, the spokesman for the Israeli military, into Gaza for limited raids. Again, the Israeli military says what is happening tonight is not the full-scale operation into Gaza. But again, we can only report what we have, and that is according to the Israeli military. With that said, the artillery fire along the border continues, as do the airstrikes. The Israelis, for the past several hours, have been hammering the northern part of Gaza. We are working around the clock to try to get you more information from inside the Strip, despite the fact that cell service is down for local Palestinian services from the Jawal network. We are talking with Palestinians who have foreign SIM cards and are able to bounce their phones off of Israeli cell towers. And so I'm texting with someone who's inside Gaza right now. This individual is in the central part of the Gaza Strip, not in Gaza City behind me. And he is talking about the situation inside, saying they can hear the airstrikes, but where he's located in the central part of Gaza, there are no airstrikes. Another indication this is focused on the northern part of the Gaza Strip. He continues to say that the situation is difficult and asking questions just about what's happening. There's a lot of confusion inside Gaza with the cell towers down for local Palestinian SIM cards and questions for the more than 2 million civilians that are currently inside Gaza. But again, the latest that we can report, John and Sandra, is that the artillery along the border continues, as do the airstrikes. There are a movement of troops behind us. The Israelis, it appears, are entering the Gaza Strip in what we can confirm is a limited ground operation. That's tank fire going into Gaza. I'm not sure if you could see any of that, but you can hear the blast and the ground shaking here. It gives you a sense of just how close we are to the battle that is unfolding behind us. John, Sandra?
We could certainly hear that. Wow, Trey, definitely different. Than what we
Trey,
were
Trey, I was about to ask you that we could hear some firing. I didn't know if it was tank fire, mortars, or artillery, but clearly that was a fairly large blast. We just heard from John Kirby a few minutes ago, who said that the United States would support a pause in the military operations in order to get aid to the Palestinians in Gaza and as well try to make some headway on hostages. It would seem like a pause is not something that Israel is entertaining at this moment, at least.
It doesn't seem so. And when we spoke with Israel's defense minister, Yoav Gallant, earlier today in Tel Aviv, he discussed this. And like I said earlier, much of the conversation was off the record, but a lot of it we were able to get approved so that we could report this information. And one of the 4 points for the Israelis, one of their main objectives in all of this, as the war is about to enter its 22nd day, is to get those hostages out of Gaza. And I just saw a flash there, likely more tank fire. It gives you a sense of how close we are here. Okay. We are right on the edge of the battle here. And again, rocket fire is continuing into southern Israel. The airstrikes continue along the border. And these tanks that are clearly just over the ridge from us are now firing into the Gaza Strip. So we're talking about airstrikes, artillery, tank fire. Wow. And just to give you a sense of what it's like here in southern Israel, a few moments ago, and you can hear the movement of those troops now, a few moments ago, we took fire here, and it was likely rocket fire. We couldn't hear the whiz of mortars, so probably short-range rockets that the factions inside Gaza are still firing into Israeli territory. You have about 10 seconds to respond here. There were sirens sounding in this location, and as we ran to the shelter, explosions rocked the area, and local authorities told us minutes after that there were 2 direct impacts in this location.
Trey,
Sandra?
I want to read right off the wires for you. Jordan's foreign minister says Israel just launched ground war on Gaza. Outcome will be humanitarian catastrophe of epic proportions. That is Jordan's foreign minister a moment ago. Also, the White House's John Kirby has been speaking. He would not comment directly on the latest actions by Israel into Gaza, but he just said we will continue to have discussions with Israel about the manner they're doing this. He said we are confident that we can protect our troops and this. He just said in this gaggle, the U.S. will not draw red lines for Israel. Trey.
Yeah, look, there's a lot going on behind the scenes here politically in all of this. And that was a lot of what the conversation, I'm going to get out of the frame here so that you can see. So what you're looking at there, cluster munitions, probably a 155 millimeter fired by that artillery that you could hear in the distance. And so when that happens, it rains down here. That artillery is made, the rounds are made in the United States. And it's the same artillery, actually, that the Americans are providing to Ukraine. And so it gives you a sense of the scene here. The Israelis, as we speak, are shelling the Gaza Strip with artillery units along the border. That's the explosion you heard right there. In the distance, if you hear any smaller explosions, that's the Israeli Navy hammering the Gazan side, the western side of Gaza. The Israeli Air Force is hitting targets along the northern part of the Gaza Strip. And that artillery continues with the tank fire that you've seen go off behind me. And so clearly something is happening tonight. And we continue to cite the Israeli military and what they have told us. And they've told us they are conducting expanded ground raids into Gaza. We don't want to speculate or call this for what it could be, because we need to wait and we need to be patient here. But this is unlike any other night we have covered. We've been out here for the past 21 days covering this as it unfolds. And this is a significant development. Also, to give you a sense of the phases here, this is indicative of what we expected to come next. The Israelis told us they would be ramping up their strikes against Gaza before entering on the ground. This is referred to in military terms as softening the target. And when we met with the defense minister in Tel Aviv tonight, he laid out this plan and how it's going to look moving forward. And when I asked him directly, and you could tell this is wearing on him. This is a massive ground war that is unfolding here, and there are concerns it's not just going to be in the south, but activity on the northern border with Lebanon and the entire region. But I asked him how long this is going to take, and he told me it is not a question of weeks, it is a question of months.
Hey, Trey, I wanted to ask you one other question. We talked about this a little bit last hour, and that is the fact that the IDF really has focused a lot of attention on the Al-Shifa hospital, which it insists is the headquarters for Hamas, that underneath the hospital there is a labyrinth of basements and sub-basements, which Hamas uses as its headquarters. But they have been tweeting about Al-Shifa. They had an elaborate presentation today with computer graphics representative of what they say is the underground complex. It would seem to me that is laying the predicate for Israel to go after elements of that hospital, if not the hospital itself. Have you heard any word there that the IDF is going to try to get that hospital evacuated or may go after it? I mean, what's this information program about that they're launching regarding that hospital?
Yeah, John, it's a good question. Just to give you some background on the Al-Shifa hospital, it's the largest hospital inside Gaza, and it sits in the middle of Gaza City. Many of the images that we brought you over the past week, especially the images we brought you following the hospital explosion at a separate hospital in northern Gaza, were from Al-Shifa, because they brought the bodies of those killed in that Palestinian Islamic Jihad misfire to Al-Shifa. I've been to Al-Shifa hospital, and I want to describe the layout to you. In 2014, during Sukkot, a 51-day war between Israel and Gaza, I was reporting there, and you enter in a main entryway, and there is a circle, similar to a traffic circle, where ambulances will roll in, drop off patients, and then go to their next location. In the center there are many civilians who shelter, especially during conflicts like the one unfolding now. And then there's the main hospital building. But around the complex, there are a variety of buildings. And one time I actually met with Hamas leadership inside a building. This was in 2014 on the Al-Shifa hospital complex. What the Israelis released today was a computer-generated image that shows what they say is a tunnel complex beneath Al-Shifa hospital. And when we step back and we think about this, the Israelis want the public to understand that Hamas is hiding a command center beneath the hospital, according to the Israelis and the intelligence they have received. We have not seen that intelligence. We have only seen what they've told us and the computer-generated image that they claim is beneath the hospital. But we know there is an extensive network of tunnels beneath Gaza, especially Gaza City. And so whether or not they could hit it or they would tell people to evacuate, we don't know. I do want to just give you some new information because my source inside Gaza is texting me as we talk here. And I'm just going to read you exactly what he says to me. More tank fire into the northern part of Gaza. Again, it shows you just how close we are here. You can hear the tanks firing from the ridge that we are standing on into Gaza. And it takes a few seconds until the round actually hits its target, and then you hear a smaller explosion in the distance. Back to what I was saying here, though, about my source inside Gaza. More tank fire. But the source in the middle part of Gaza, he evacuated south following those warnings by the Israelis. And I asked him what the mood is tonight in Gaza. He says, unfortunately, no connection to know what's going on. Remember, he has a foreign SIM card, so he is bouncing these messages off an Israeli cell tower. There's no local cell signal in Gaza right now. He says, sound is very big and we're scared. Gaza tonight is alone. I can't confirm these airstrikes, the targets, people, civilians, or hospitals. We're trying to reach some people inside Gaza City, but no connection. This is a source that I have used to confirm information about what's happening in Gaza, so that is why he's giving me that last part. It gives you a sense there are more than 2 million Palestinian civilians in Gaza not affiliated with Hamas or Islamic Jihad. There are also thousands of Hamas and Islamic Jihad fighters along the Strip. That is why this is so complicated, what's taking place. But we've got to talk about those civilians in Gaza who are innocent bystanders in all of this. And they are also terrified tonight. War is such a terrible thing. And when you think about what it is like inside the Strip, we've been there when war erupts. Not a war this large, though. And the amount of air power hammering Gaza, the artillery in the distance, this is the front line of a ground war between Israel and Gaza, and it is going to be incredibly challenging. It will be a bloody urban battle as these Israeli forces enter. And even if this is contained tonight to an extended raid inside the Gaza Strip, we are talking about these Israeli troops being immediately engaged. They will not simply roll into Gaza with tanks and APCs. They will face a fierce resistance from the factions inside the Strip, including Hamas and Islamic Jihad. And there is a battle raging behind us as we speak.
Trey, obviously always take safety with your crew. As you see anything come in, we hear it. We have seen a lot of it, and it seems to be escalating just the last few minutes. I wrote down what you just said, Trey. As we have a few minutes to the top of the hour here, almost 3 o'clock here on the East Coast, almost 10 p.m. there in southern Israel. You said in the 21 days that you've been covering this, tonight is unlike any other, Trey. Obviously, things are changing.
Absolutely. Things are changing. This is the next phase of the war. At this moment, I cannot confirm to you that the ground operation has begun. What we can tell you is that a new phase is underway right now as we speak. The Israelis are describing that phase as an extension of the raids that were taking place over the past few nights. But this war is entering a phase that we knew it would enter, according to the top intelligence officials we're talking to, not just here on the ground, but also in the United States. We've been trying to get a full picture of what's taking place here. And this was what was described to us as the next step in all of this, increasing the airstrikes, pushing in on the ground to test what the resistance would be like for the Israeli soldiers, and then ultimately continuing with the plan. And that plan, according to the Israeli military and the defense minister, who we talked with face-to-face today in Tel Aviv, is to completely destroy Hamas. And just listen here. You can hear those APCs. They are headed toward the Gaza Strip as we speak.
Trey, you've been doing amazing reporting. We'll let you get a break because obviously it's going to be a long night where you are. Most of the fire, it would seem, is outgoing which is good, but the chance for incoming fire is always there. So stay safe, my friend. Doing great work.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.